Hey everyone, welcome back to the Belonging Experiment. And I am Roby, and as always, I'm here with my friend Anu. So we're two friends who have moved around the world and trying to find our sense of belonging wherever we land.
That's right. And we started this podcast to share our stories and hopefully make you feel a little less lonely on your own journey. Today, we're diving into something really close to our hearts, what we lost and gained when we moved abroad, and whether we'll ever find home anywhere.
So, for anyone who's tuning in for the first time, Anu and I are both working women back in Japan, and now I'm originally from the Philippines, and now I'm in the US.
And I'm Anu. I moved from India to Japan and I now live in Portugal. We've all had our fair share of challenges adapting and finding our place. Looking back, there's so much we wish someone had told us before we packed our bags. Now, today for this special episode, as you can see, we have a wonderful guest with us. Pascal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Pascal. I'm born and raised in Singapore, and I moved to Japan about 2.5 years ago, and still currently residing in Japan. So it's great to be here. Thank you so much for
Yay!
inviting me.
Let's start by talking about, I think, what we lost in our moves, not just the physical things, but also, let's say, the intangible aspects of moving to, let's say, a different country. And I guess also things that we didn't really think it was important at the beginning, or was we didn't even think that it was so important to us. And then when we moved to another country, we realized, oh, I actually miss that, or I think I don't have access to that anymore. I don't know if you have something in your mind now, Pascal, but maybe you wanted to share your story.
Sure. So, just some context. I was working in Singapore. Life was great. I was in a quite a good company. I had quite a good salary, but I kept craving for something different. So I was working in a particular department for like a few years, and then I craved to do something different. So I switched roles, and then the inevitable happened. I got laid off from my job. But I was already craving to move to another country, so I got an opportunity to do that through my partner. He moved and I moved with him. So
Yes.
I think it was a pretty impulsive move.
Mm-hmm.
I was because I just lost my job, so I felt like, oh, okay, it's it's a opportunity for me to start anew, in a new, totally new
Right.
country, new company, new role,
Yeah.
new life, let's go. Like, I'm so quick
Yes,
to
this
just
is it.
run away from reality, drop everything and just leave. But it was quite like, just thinking back, obviously I've never regretted my decision, and this is still like, I'm still really happy that I've moved, but it was really impulsive. I did not do research about like finding jobs in Japan. I was really just going with the flow. So I felt, when I came to Japan, I guess I felt a little bit stuck. Like, I felt a little bit lost. I was unemployed. I wasn't sure what to do with life. And I think
Fair enough.
the pressure of having to do something new, really starting afresh, was also a pressure. Like, oh, like, I came all the way to Japan. I have to do something new. Whereas
Right.
if I was still in Singapore, it would, like, I wouldn't even think about all these things, like, oh, I have to do something completely new. I
Right.
would probably just find another position, another role that was aligned with my experience, my skills, and life goes on. Yeah. So
Right.
I
Right.
think I
Right.
lost a little bit of that comfort, for sure. Yeah, it was definitely a real comfort zone. It was definitely going to be very comfortable if I continued living in Singapore. And in
For
Japan,
sure.
like, yeah, so I lost that comfort, I guess. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I love your story. What made me think about it is I remembered listening to a podcast before that the sometimes the worst thing is that when you're in a very comfortable place because you will not do something new. And in
Yeah.
your case, and I'm not sure if that's what you felt, but sometimes when you just lost something, sometimes we feel like, oh, there's nothing to lose anymore. Like, let's go. Let's do something that we've always wanted to do. And I like that, and sometimes it takes a lot of courage to do that. So yeah, so proud of
Mm-hmm.
you. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I definitely felt that way, like, oh, let's do something completely new. But yeah, I
Yeah.
got scared and then I went back running to the exact same position in Japan. But yeah, that's another story.
Making a move from Singapore, which is a country where there's so much happening at any given point of time, a familiar environment, and moving to a brand new place where there is like enough
Mm-hmm.
information out there on the internet to say people who've lived in Japan for 10 years or more find it difficult to acclimatize. Of course, there are people who do, but there are also people who don't, but the odds are in favor of you not acclimatizing. But then for you to embrace that and to say, hey, this is amazing, I'm going to try something new. And the same thing in a new environment, I think, is still new, yo.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure, for sure. I felt like there's a huge diversity of people who came to Japan, and regardless whether, they were highly skilled workers or low skilled workers, I don't know how else I can put it, you know, um,
I think yeah,
yeah,
Right.
but
blue colored and white colored, is that what they call it?
yeah,
Yeah.
blue collar, white collar, I think for in my position, it wasn't really like a move to enhance like my quality of life in that financial aspect for sure. So I definitely, if you're gonna talk about one thing that we lost, it's definitely that financial aspect. Like,
Hmm.
compared to Singapore, yen is weaker. Sorry to be one of those foreigners, but yen
No,
is
you're accurate,
weaker.
yo. That's the
Yeah,
reality.
Yeah.
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 And the salary is lower. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, don't even talk about the salary. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's
let's not go
ridiculous.
there,
Yeah.
but that's the
And
reality.
yeah, and the taxes. Yeah. So I think this is a huge, it's definitely a significant loss, I would say, making the
Wow.
decision to come
Yeah.
here.
No.
Yeah.
I like that perspective because I don't know how it is for you, Anu, but definitely coming from the Philippines, this was like 10 years ago. Moving to Japan was, I'll say it's a little bit of an improvement from my previous salary, but I like Pascal's story because it's on the other way around, right? Like, of course, Singapore is one of the, let's say, hub for businesses too. Which makes me really think that we all have our own story, right? It's not all about money sometimes, and that
Yeah.
growth sometimes requires us to move out of our comfort zone. So,
Hmm.
yeah. I think I will just go next because mine is also somehow related to what Pascal was saying, a little bit more on the career side. I lost the concept of being attracted to, let's say, the corporate position titles. I think to me, 10 years ago or more, my idea of success of how my life will turn out is very linear. That you work in one company, maybe you'll move to another company, but eventually the end goal is to be like a VP in some of the companies. My story is that I went to Japan. I got a scholarship for taking my MBA. And then, you know, these stories about like, oh, after MBA, like your salary will double. It's not that case
Yes.
in Japan. And that whole story, I think, of graduating from MBA in Japan, and I think most of the companies in Japan still do not recognize the value of MBA as
Mm-hmm.
compared to, let's
For
say,
sure.
The Philippines or the US. So there's really no such thing as a bump in your salary once you have an MBA. And at some point, I even have to take it in that I have to look for jobs and like job fairs with the new fresh graduates. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Could I just go back home and maybe, like regain that position? But I'm glad I gave it a try, right? I'm glad that I gave it my all. I found eventually a company that I stayed for the next 8 years after I applied. And I like the fact that that concept of success is equal to a high paying job or even a title, right? Because I was so title was very important to me, like, oh, I'm a manager, oh, I'm a VP. But it gave me a certain level of contempt that I think I will not be able to get if I stayed where I was. And that changed me as a person too. Because now I'm not judging people based on their titles. I'm judging myself based on how happy I am living my life or living my own story. So, yeah, that's
Oh,
my
so much
story.
respect. I know it's smiling because my role is to recruit MBAs, so I know.
Really? I should
Yeah.
have got to. But you were not yet in
To
Japan, I guess.
recruit motivated and smart MBAs, may I
There
add.
you go.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you guys could message Anu and Pascal which company that is so that we could recommend it to you.
I'm no longer working for that company.
You're no longer in that
So
company.
But we can
Both of
still
them are
help
no
you send
longer
in
working.
recommendations, maybe.
Correct.
I guess. Yeah.
Actually, if
And
I
what
think
is it
about,
for you?
I love your both your stories because I feel like mine is a combination of the two of your stories. So basically, growing up, I I saw India transition into an economy that embraced globalization. We had a safe environment, very good quality food, some fantastic beaches. In addition to all of this, we had the quintessential South Indian architecture, which was influenced by the Portuguese as well as the British. So we had the best of both worlds. We had the sustainable India growing up as well as a global India growing up. And also, I think the idea of having a job is very different from the idea of having a job in Japan. Like in India, it what is important is the quality of work. You can work 2 years in a company, but if you have really good output, you continue on to the next organization. You could transition with, I think, I'm just going with my old data because I don't have current data. But at that time, you could transition within to different companies with a 25% hike or a 30% hike if you're able to position yourself very well. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You know, you can typically pitch yourself at almost the same level. And when I came to Japan, it was completely different. Like when I got my job, all of my experience was completely disregarded. They're like, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. You're here now and you have zero experience, and that's what matters. So the starting point was almost at zero, which was, I think, an absolute disservice. Not to point fingers or blame, but that was the reality. That is how it was. And I think at that time, things for me personally took a blow. For me, what I really lost, if I think about it at that time, was the freedom to think like an entrepreneur and to behave like an entrepreneur, which was encouraged in an environment that I came from. And in Japan, they said no, follow the process. There is a way, stick to the SOP. That's all we want, you know? And I think I lost that courage where I could say, oh, let's do this or let's do that. Now I'm a little bit more process oriented, saying, step one, where do we begin? What is the starting point? So, yeah, I think that's what I really lost. The courage
Love it.
to
Yeah.
start from the beginning is a scary thing for me
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. One thing
Yeah.
that resonated to me with what you mentioned is every time, like that feeling of you feel so free back home. I still feel that every time I go home to the Philippines, like, oh, like when you go to the hotel, you can just request anyone what you needed, and then they will. It's not like going, of course, like outside, like the line of request, but it's like everything is workable, and that's something that I forget that that's actually possible, because in Japan, like, nope, there's just certain requests you could do, and it's not like right or wrong. I think my key takeaway from all of this is we have now the benefit of enjoying that freedom back home, but also we're learning certain processes that makes us more organized in Japan, and we could enjoy the best of both worlds, I guess.
I
That
feel
makes
like it's a collective lost between the three of, like, it's mutual. Like,
correct.
I'm pretty sure all of our countries combined are a lot more flexible than what's happening in
Correct.
Japan. um yeah. So I think it's a loss for us, for all of us, for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And I still have a lot of friends who would want to move to Japan, and I never
Yeah.
discourage them. I share my experience. I
Yep.
tell them just prepare for this, because I know we also gained something. And like, I know that whatever we gained, it's something that we couldn't also find back home. And overall, it's up to us whether we say, was it all worth it? And I guess that's exactly what we'll be talking today as we transition to the topics.
Yeah, which brings me to the next segment, what we gained. So, just shifting into something a little more uplifting, what have we gained from our moves? Because despite the challenges, I feel like we were resilient enough to stay put in a tough situation, which led us to gain some unexpected gifts that have come with starting over new. So, Pascal, what is it that you think that you have gained from this move?
Firstly, I felt that I've gained a bit of reconnection with my parents. So
Mm.
I back when so just a bit of context, in Singapore, it's not common for somebody like a 30-year-old like me to still be living with your parents. In Singapore, we say that there's a Singapore dream. So this is how the ideal path looks like in Singapore. You get a good education, you go to university. By the time you get to university, you meet a good partner, or, like, somebody prospective that you will get married. This is very important because in Singapore, if you buy housing from the government
Right,
at a
right.
more relatively more affordable price, one of the requirements is you gotta get married. It's a very it's a very interesting scheme. So because Singapore is so small that land is very scarce, so government controls all the public housing. That there is private housing for sure, but private housing is so expensive. So most of the affordable housing is public housing, and you have to purchase it from the government. But in order to do that, there are a number of requirements. So you have to be married, and that's the first requirement, because this is something that really impacts, like, the whole framework of achieving the Singaporean dream. So everybody in Singapore would want to have a house. That's just how everybody is
Yeah.
wired. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
gotta have a house, and in
Yeah.
order to do that, you gotta have a partner. You start the process from very young. You apply to purchase public housing with your partner. It's a ballot system because it's so competitive. So if you
Right.
manage to get the queue number, they'll assign you a queue number. So you basically have the opportunity to purchase the house, but it's a first come first serve basis. So you have to choose your estate, and then you can choose like rooms that you want. But if somebody else has a shorter queue number, then they might take that room away. So it's like a it's a whole
Wow.
whole system. It's a whole system
Wow.
basically. And once you are successful in choosing your flat and everything, the building starts. So what you're choosing is actually not built yet.
Wow.
It's so the
I
government is
didn't know
selling
that.
you, yeah, something that is not built yet, basically. And right now you need to wait up to 5 years for your house to be built. So
Hmm.
basically, going back to the university student, what you would do is, together with your partner, you will apply for the housing, and in 5 years time, if you are still together and not broken up yet, you get the house um once it's ready. And you get a good stable job. You work a 9 to 5, and slowly you achieve a good salary, and then you sell your public housing and upgrade to a private housing. So, and plus, if you have a car, because everything is so expensive in Singapore, so if you have a car, if you have like kids, pets, whatever, you basically achieve the Singaporean dream. I
Wow.
feel that probably most Singaporeans would follow this very linear path, like what you mentioned,
Sure.
Ruby.
We're-
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow.
why I've mentioned this is because if you don't have housing yourself, you are basically living with your parents. Because
Correct.
I don't, very few Singaporeans will choose to not rent, because rent is actually really expensive. It's probably like twice the price in Japan. So most people would still be living with their parents if they have not done the process of getting the public housing with their partner, getting married and stuff like that. So that was me. I was living with my parents. Even though I have a partner, we weren't married that yet. So I was still living with my parents up to like 30 years old, and I really hated it. Like, I wanted to move out so
Mm.
much. My parents are very typical Asian parents. As long as you have a job, they are happy. Everything is very monetary.
Right.
Yeah. Have you eaten? Or do you have a stable job? These are the two most common questions that they would ask me. I was very comfortable living in my parents' house. They were doing all the household chores. I didn't even have to lift a finger. They cook. Once my dad cooks, he would just serve. He will plate it and he will serve it to me while I'm like sitting on the couch watching TV.
Oh,
And once I'm
that's the best.
yeah, and once I'm done eating, my mom would be like, "Okay, let me clear this for you," and she'll bring it to the bag and
I
wash
love
it.
it.
So
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Sounds
so
very
it's
familiar.
it's yeah. So like, yes, I'm very comfortable living in my parents' house, but I wasn't happy because I didn't feel free. Um it didn't feel like it was my space. It felt like it was my parents' space. Um so all these things that they were doing for me, I didn't appreciate it at all. To me, it's
Mm.
like, I can do these
Mm.
things myself. Like, why are you behaving like that? I'm like, I'm 30 years old. I'm I'm like freaking old. Like, just leave me alone and let me do my own dishes. Let me choose my own bed. Let me choose my own closet. Let me choose this. Let me clean up my own room. But they were
Right,
still doing
right,
these things
right,
for me. So
right.
when I came to Japan, obviously you're not no longer living with your parents. You really start to appreciate it. you know, you previously you were taking them for granted, but now you obviously appreciate what they have done for you.
Right.
And I would initiate a lot more conversation with them. Like I would start calling them more often. I would, you know, text them. I would be nice to them because I was last
Yeah.
time, you know,
You,
I would always shout at them because sometimes old people just don't. I don't know whether you should
yeah.
include this, but old people don't make sense sometimes, and it just
Yeah.
gets on your nerves. So I'm always so angry when I was living in my parents' house, but now I crave the connection with them. Like I want to reconnect with them, not in a way for them to like do all these menial tasks for me, but more
Right.
like, hey, let's have a more emotional connection. Yeah. So
Oh.
I never ever said I love you to my dad ever or my mom ever.
Um,
But
um,
after coming to Japan, it's still awkward for me to say it. But my dad would say it first on
aw,
video,
I like
and I'll
that.
be like, yeah, I love you too. And then it's still very awkward, but I would like take the effort to say it back. Whereas when if I'm still in Singapore, probably I don't think I would ever be able to do it. Yeah. So I think that's
Oh, I
one
love
thing
that.
I've gained. And I'm so sorry. I'm gonna take up more time. um,
Go.
I think the other
Go
thing
ahead.
is obviously reconnecting with myself because I mean, as I've mentioned earlier, there is like a very linear path to having a very successful and happy life in Singapore. And I deep down always felt like that's not really for me. I didn't really want to be on that path. Like there's just something in me that I'm like, I
It's not
really need to
me.
get out
Yeah.
of this place. Yeah, like I need to get out of Singapore. I need to find something like it's like so cliche, but it's like soul searching, you know, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So yeah, and in Singapore it's just so easy to be on autopilot because you're living in your parents' house. You know, you go to work and then after work you hang out with your friends. It's like autopilot every single day. But when I came to Japan and I was unemployed or I had so much free time, only when you have so much free time you will realize like, oh, I need to do some introspection. Um, yeah, what exactly do I want to do? What is my sense of purpose? What do I like? What do I not like? Like very simple questions, but I couldn't answer it when I was in Singapore.
Mm.
You know, not literally like, oh,
Right,
I like
right.
food, I like green. No, but like really like what do you want to do? What do you like to do? What do you not like to do? So there was a lot of, I guess, introspection that I've done, and kind of like reconnecting with myself a bit more. Um, so
I
yeah,
love
I
that.
think because of that, I made the decision to leave my full time position in my previous company in Japan. Because I felt like, hey, I didn't come here to do the same thing in Singapore again and walk down the same path, feeling stuck. I want to do something different and something for myself. So I made the decision to leave the company pretty soon, actually. Yeah, in less than a year. Um, so that was
That's
something
good.
that
That's good.
probably, yeah, I'll take it as like I've gained something. Um,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, yeah, I don't know, I don't really know how to put it into words. If you can
No,
help
no,
me put
you're
it into
good.
words.
Um, what I'm listening to your story, I don't know, I think this is a common feeling of all the foreigners who have moved to Japan. I think we all have that story of wanting to get to know ourselves a little bit more. And that's something that we actually have an opportunity uh, to to really get to know ourselves now that we're in, well, now we're not in Japan anymore, but that is actually one of my biggest wins as well, is to really get to know myself. And I feel like I'm a totally different person than who I was if I didn't leave the country. It's a lot, but I think a lot of people could relate to your story, Pascal.
I think what you said was resonated so well, especially coming from an Asian society where there is so much
Yeah.
competition. I'm just going to jump in and add my point. I
Mm,
feel like growing up in a very competitive environment, you always had something to prove. If you didn't perform academically, you had to prove in other aspects to say, I'm successful enough to qualify as somebody who is street smart. When I left that environment where there was a certain way that you need to work to prove yourself in the society or in your particular community, and you come to a society where at the end of the day, irrespective of how old you are, your your increment, your position or your role changes based on your expertise in a particular role. So you could be 45 and you could be like an expert on a topic and not an assistant manager. It throws you off your usual, like the linear career paths that you mentioned. With a certain experience, you're like, of course, at this experience, you're a manager. This is your take home salary. And you come to a country where none of that counts. And then you're like, what am I doing? You tend to compare yourself with people around you and then tell yourself, ask yourself what is really important for you. Are titles and positions important, or doing meaningful work in a place that you truly appreciate, that lets you be, is that more important for you? For me personally, the need to have my performance validated by anybody other than my team, that mindset was something I got to do away with. Don't get me wrong, I still need validation. But a few years ago, 90% of my self acceptance came from validation.
mm,
Today, maybe 10 to 20% of my self worth comes from external validation. So I think that is something that I understand. And what you said about introspection is, man, it's so true. Because I think even now, when I talk to someone back home, they're like so busy with their day. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Do you have time to stop and to think about yourself? If somebody had told me this when I was back home, I would have been like, really? What is there to think about? There's a target, just keep going. But now I'm like, no, you need to stop. You need to think. You need to reflect. You need to see what makes sense for you, what doesn't, what value do you connect to, and what are some things that you don't connect with anymore, and some habits that you can do away with because of that. So important. I really value that
Yeah.
today. I don't think I would have valued that if I was back home.
Yeah, for
right,
sure.
right.
I think I have a lot more gratitude, you know.
Mm.
Yeah. Like
It's
losing,
very humbling. It's very
Absolutely.
humbling, right?
Yep.
it's
Yep.
very yeah, it's very humbling for sure.
Um, Maybe what I'll add, and when I'm hearing all your stories, and then another thing comes up in my mind is like, okay, wait, what do I want to say? Okay. So I think for me, back in the Philippines, when it comes to opportunities and all of that, we definitely have a lot of opportunities, especially with when we talk about gender equality, gender equity as well. It's not even an issue. I didn't even feel like, oh, if you're a woman, you can't be like this. Like, huh? What is that? It's like a new concept for me. Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, there's a men and women competition, and that's just because that's kind of like culturally, women are very strong also in the Philippines. So when I moved to Japan, I think what I gained is similar to what you have already touched upon, is just really the feeling of content and security on a different level. not coming just from money, but it's even so I'm now on my late last year of being in my 30s. So imagine living your 30s. I didn't even have a boyfriend. I don't know if I'll have, a husband in the future. So imagine freeing myself from all the follow-ups that I would have gotten if I stayed in the Philippines. Like, oh, you're already in your 30s. You should be married by now. You should have kids. I'm just so thankful I'm not living in that environment because I could be truly myself. In Japan, I still stayed in one company, but what I gained is that feeling of security and content. I happened to be in a company that I could live speaking English because it's global company. So that's also a win. But also they allow you to move in different departments even if that was not your previous experience. So I really enjoyed my corporate life in a way, and I know that's not going to be the experience of some of the foreigners in Japan, but I think I was just lucky enough that I was in an environment that I'm allowed to grow. And by growing, it doesn't necessarily mean like just getting promoted all the time, but moving to another part of the company from marketing to HR. And then my last role was in customer experience, which again, I could argue there's a connection to all of this, but also it's not very direct connection. So I think the feeling of security is coming from that I was able to grow but still attain a certain level of financial security that was not the case when I first moved in Japan, because I stayed in a certain company. I'm like in the middle of like living the Japan life, I guess, of staying in one company for a long time and then trying to succeed there, but also have my gaijin card or my foreigner card of like, hey, I'm not really a Japanese, so I will use my foreigner card on this one of I will not fit in your society, but I'm willing to learn your your local culture. And that I think is what I made as a strength. And that was also what I gained is that, let's say, respect from my Japanese friends, that I'm willing to go the extra mile of like learning their language even if I sound funny, and just being vulnerable, I think made me more comfortable of myself, because I think my concept of being successful before is you have to be strong, you don't need to show emotions, but this time I was the one leading it with vulnerability and emotions, and that's how I think I gained friends all over Japan, and now they've moved to different parts of the world too, and now I've maintained that. So yeah, that's a lot,
Yeah.
but that's, I think, to say that there's a lot to gain in moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think just related to the whole monetary aspect of, advancing your career, I think maybe I've come to peace that maybe there's just there isn't just one option, which is to like succeed in a
Mm,
corporate position. There are many, many
correct,
different paths that you can take. There are conventional paths and non-conventional paths. And what
correct.
makes you think this one path is conventional? I mean, it's up to you to define what kind of path you want to take. Yeah. So I
Correct.
think I've gained a bit more peace. I don't think I'm fully at
I love
peace
that.
with it.
No.
I definitely still am, I still have that competitive spirit, Singaporean
Yes, yes.
competitive spirit. Like,
It's
ah
still
man,
it's
like
still there.
I still need to have some sort of monetary gain or
Achievement.
whatever, but yeah,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
sort of achievement. But I think I definitely feel that that piece is something that I've gained. Also, I'm not sure if this is Singapore specific. Maybe you guys can share how your country is like. This has been kind of confirmed with a lot of people as well, even with foreigners living in Singapore. In general, the whole vibe in Singapore is very commercialized. Like restaurants, shops, like everybody's out to just profit off you.
Mm, mm.
Rental, everything's so high. Like you, it's hard to find somebody who genuinely wants you to enjoy their service or
I
product.
love it. Yes. Yeah.
And that is something that I experience a lot in Japan, and it's really uh it's quite emotional actually. It's like
Yes. Yes.
I so respect the Japanese people that chase their passions and genuinely want to be able to share like their craft and share what is good, like what is actually good, like
Mm.
good quality, you know. They think that this is good, hence they want to share it with everybody else. And they're not like charging you a shit ton of money
Yep.
to get a profit. That's not profit is not like priority. I've noticed this in a lot of establishments across Japan, and it's this one fucking missing jigsaw puzzle in Singapore. Like, you know, this small thing that you find everywhere in Japan, this serendipity, I think it really significantly improves your life. It really helps me to have more gratitude towards
Yes.
things and appreciate more small little things in life. It's not just about the money, it's not just about the car, the private house, whatever. It's very little things like, did you have a good meal? Did you nourish your body with good healthy ingredients? That kind of thing. Like, it really kind of heals me a little bit spiritually. Not
Yes.
this
Yeah.
spiritually and physically, spiritually, and yeah, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you were super on point on that, and thanks for bringing that up because I think that's something that, yeah, that's a very important piece of our the time that we've spent in Japan. Is I think the whole culture in itself encourages you to be a peaceful, content person because that's what you see
Mm,
everywhere. And
that's true.
so one of my eventually the goals that I've made in Japan was to travel all of the 47 prefectures, and I've seen that in every prefecture. Sometimes I end up in a prefecture and I was like, I'm just standing there in awe of like, how did I end up in this beautiful place? And I wish people could experience what I'm experiencing right now. And I'm just like overwhelmed with the whole experience of the peace. I'm like walking alone, but I don't feel lonely, and eating alone, but not lonely. And I think I don't know how I could explain that. And my mom would always call me, is like, hey, are you not sad there? Are you not lonely? It's like, oh my gosh, that's the last word I would even
Yeah.
think of right now. Like I'm just super at peace. And I think that was her worry the whole time, is like, what if you grow old and you won't, you won't find a husband, and uh, how could you live your life? It's like, oh, don't worry about it. And I think my dad started joking, oh, don't worry about her. As long as she has money, she'll be fine. But I'm glad they
Yeah.
could make a joke out of it because I know no matter how I say it, if you have not experienced it, like the three of us, we know how that feels. But if you have not lived in Japan, I think it will be very hard to imagine how this peace feels like.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
have
for
been
sure.
recently helping people create an itinerary for travel to Japan. And
You should
initially,
charge them. Sorry. to, to Singaporean in me is
Capitalism
coming
out
out.
there, Pascal. No, no, no. We should just be passionate here. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm
Just
sorry.
no, just kidding.
so initially I was like, okay, here are some places to see, like Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, if you wish, if you're like a history buff, and if you want to ski, Hokkaido, that's it. But now when I'm trying to make experiences, I am trying and I'm failing terribly to create experiences where they can truly appreciate the sense of Japan, the environment where there is continuous improvement, where there is exceptional service, where you go to a place and you get the best of the best, and that's just your benchmark. Like, it's not excellence, but that's just the benchmark. I think that's something I am personally very grateful for, because that's something that you gain only if you live there. To say, this is something I can experience for free. Yes, I pay a certain price to get to that particular destination, but the takeaways are for free. And I think that's really invaluable.
Mm.
So we've talked about our losses and we've talked about our gains as well. And I think to wrap up this very beautiful conversation that we have here, the question that I have for the three of us is how to find this balance, right? And I think the big question is, was it worth it? I think for me and Anu, maybe that's was it worth it? Maybe for Pascal is it currently so far worth it because you're still in Japan and you're still
Mm-hmm.
continuing that journey. Um, Pascal, what do you think is it for you now that you're still there? You're still
Mm-hmm.
experiencing all of this. What
Yeah.
is it
I mean,
worth it so far?
after you hear everything I said, of course it's worth it. It's not worth it. It's not. Um, yeah, for sure, it's very worth it. But also, I'm just trying to be aware of this process because I acknowledge that I'm very privileged because I was working in Singapore for a bit, so I already had some financial security. And moving here with that financial security really helps. I get to enjoy a bit of those nicer things in life in Japan. I
Right,
have a lot more
right,
choices when it comes to choosing a house in Tokyo. If I didn't have that financial security at the start, and I'm someone who just come YOLO, just pack my
right.
bags, bring $1,000, would that experience be different? It's obviously going to be very, very different. So I
Correct.
acknowledge that I am still
I like that.
experiencing that sort of privilege when I'm living in Tokyo. And my experience has been so far mostly great. So I definitely think it's very worth it. Like I wanted a different environment, a different experience, and I'm getting all those, including the bad ones, but you gotta embrace it, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes, yes, for sure.
there's no perfect place to live in.
Um,
Oh,
I think just finding the balance of like, so we lost something, but we also gained something, and how do we
yeah,
frame, yeah, that experience, right?
yeah. Just to like finish off the thought, I think it was worth it. But I feel that Singapore is still my home for sure. And I do feel that Japan is like my second home because I've studied about Japan. I've learned the language since I was in university. So actually I already feel like it's my second home ever since I was in university. I also started to gain appreciation for my own country, regardless whether I live in Singapore or I continue to live in Japan. I definitely want the best of both worlds. Like I would love to be able to do like a dual sort of life, but
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Anu, what is it for you? Like, do you think, now that you're in Portugal, looking back and hearing, and actually I really like this session because it reminded me of why I, up to this point, can't get over about my life in Japan. And I think it will be forever part of me. So, was it worth it for you having to experience the ugly and the pretty experiences in Japan?
For me, I think what was really important that at the end of the day, I gained some amazing friends at the end of it. And
Mm,
these friends that I have gained have helped me shape my thought process, have helped me shape my outlook in life, have helped me navigate through tough situations, therefore making me a little bit more resilient than I thought I was. What has really changed in the last 10 years is I've become more deliberate in the way I speak, in the way I want to position myself. And definitely the people around me today, the closest people around me that I've met in Japan, have been influential in molding that. And in that sense, I think it has definitely been worth it. In terms of travel, in terms of exposure, I have been subject to things that I have never dreamed of. I have been able to push my own limits, I think, with various aspects in things that I didn't believe I had the ability to do or achieve.
Mm.
I have become more content with what I have and what I don't. And if I don't have something, I don't really feel the need to say, oh, I need to get that. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. Which I think personally for me is very liberating. I don't feel the
Yes.
need to compete. I know what I'm good at, I know what I can do, and I know what I can't do. And I'm just gonna be like, yeah, this is not gonna work for me. Thank you very much. Whether it's a certain environment or whether it's a certain task, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's it. I still don't think I'm a complete person today. I think I have a lot of room to grow. And I definitely think with constant conversations such as this or other conversations that are not captured in obviously through podcasts, I think I'm definitely growing as a person. So in that sense, yeah, I think it has been worth it for myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I want to pick up some words that you guys have already mentioned. I like the point of Pascal when she said that, like we have to acknowledge that at some point she was also privileged to have that opportunity, right? Because she had savings moving in. To me, I did not have that at the beginning, but then because I landed, let's say, a job that suits me too, I was able to build that financial security. And I think that was really a big win for me because after a few years, I really felt like I was in a very financially secured place where there are things that I can afford, but I choose not to buy because that's not something that makes me happy anymore. And just knowing that, for instance, a lot of people, let's say in the internet, would go for trends, would buy certain brands, and I don't crave those. I feel so liberated from that because I know I could afford if I wanted to, but I'm not buying it because that's not something that makes me happy anymore. I feel like I'm freed up from that sort of mindset too, which is something that I feel like is a big win overall. And I've still carried that even if I'm outside of Japan anymore. Like just seeing the strength of every person and not competing with them because you know yourself better is actually a really big win. What I wanted to also mention on like finding balance is based from the stories that you've heard today, different path that we're taking. Pascal's mentioned there's no such thing as conventional and unconventional. And I like that because when I graduated from MBA, I think a lot of, let's say, our professors or a lot of our community in that MBA space always said that, like you would want to be an entrepreneur because, like this is where you could start something new, you could hire people, you could help others. But also I'm breaking in that MBA, let's say, path actually, because I stayed in one company and that's where I actually found myself, and I'm really happy with the path that I took. So that is to say, I think my point here is no one can tell you on right or wrong for you. It's only yourself. Like I could be here and saying that I'm actually really happy that I stayed in one company, that I did the corporate thing because it's not for everyone. And I respect if you did something different because I could see my friends who thrived being a freelancer and we're all happy. So I think that's one learning for anyone who's kind of like just listening to all of our experiences. And if you're maybe someone who's thinking if you would want to move in Japan, know that it's not going to be easy, but as long as you kind of like you live your own story, I think you will find it worth it, hopefully, with whatever decision that you're making. Yeah.
Yo, what an
Yeah.
amazing
Well
conversation
said.
this
I
has
know.
been.
I know. It is. It is.
For anyone
So,
who's wondering why I'm constantly looking down, is because I'm taking notes and I have like 2 to 3 pages worth of notes
oh
to
no.
Wow.
just try and
I'm
summarize
just
this
like,
conversation.
on the other hand, I'm just like trying to keep myself sit straight. I can feel like my posture keeps getting very bad, and then I
Yes,
gotta
I
like
know.
straighten
Me
up
too. Like,
myself again. Sorry about that.
No, 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 me
Yeah,
too, me too. I'm
that's
also
the
trying to
takeaway from.
constantly. This is our first three-person thing, so I'm just like, how
Oh,
much
I'm
have
the
I
first
worked?
guest.
Yeah, you're our first
yeah.
guest.
Oh,
So I'm
thank
trying
you.
to plan the editing already. So I'm like, are we all
Sorry,
in
I
the
made your life
screen?
more difficult.
No, I'm like, are we all in the screen? Are we all outside the screen? For now, I
Mm,
think we're all good.
yeah.
Um,
I have one random thought that came to my mind when Ruby said like, oh, I don't feel that we need to buy I don't feel that I need to buy those
Right.
brands. Yeah, yeah, you don't need to feel pressured to buy a Labubu. Because I,
Oh my
I,
God, the labubu. Oh my
no, but
God.
I
I
think it's
Really?
crazy in
Oh,
Philippines, right? Like, I think it's
it
pretty hot in
is.
Philippines.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's very trendy in Singapore also, but I totally didn't know what it was. And there's no such trend in Japan. Like,
Yes. No.
yo,
nobody
No.
cares about Labubu.
Japan has ice cream.
What's
Ice
that?
cream.
Do you
Some other
you know that
character?
new song that says
Oh,
Yumi-chan,
ha!
hi, nani ga
Nanigaski.
suki?
Ski. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Chocominto.
I don't
Iriwa
think it's just.
anata.
I don't think that's just in Japan. Like, it's global.
Yo,
It's
that's
a.
global now.
Well,
It started in
yeah.
Japan, but it's like actually it's pretty much global now.
Yeah.
I don't even know whether it's a Japanese person who created that meme because
I
somebody
don't
uploaded
think
the video.
so.
I
Yeah.
don't think so. I think it's like
Yeah.
some foreigner, like some non-Japanese.
Foreigner. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if not, Japanese people they are very niche. Like, they
Yeah.
have their own community and they don't like share it. Like,
Right.
yeah,
True.
Right.
that just so happened to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
True. So I'm
Anu,
just
will you
gonna
summarize?
I'm just gonna try and summarize because I've got like 3 pages notes here. I'm wondering how
Okay,
to do it.
don't no, we don't need 3 pages today. Okay.
Okay, I won't do 3 pages, but let's
I
see.
know, practice your summarizing skills.
Let's see.
Okay.
To summarize, one common theme that I noticed is we've all talked about walking away from a safe space, whether it is the country that we lived in, the social norms that we were used to, career successes and titles that we were used to. We walked away from all of that. While we gained a lot, we also lost a lot in terms of having that emotional stability and the sense of familiarity, which can be a very scary thing if when you choose to do. However, I feel like one thing we all agreed on is we became more introspective. I think whether it was reconnecting with ourselves, with our families, or trying to understand our needs and wants better, I think that is something that we really developed. And I loved what Pascal said about the service industry in Japan focusing on chasing their passion of craft or service. I think some that is something that everybody really needs to come and observe in Japan, because it's a country of continuous improvement and a country of kaizen, and to see how you can take a process that is already at a 80 performing at an 80% efficiency, and to see how I can do it better, how I can do it faster. I find that fascinating. I never thought I could do it ever. But I think that's something that we have kind of ingrained into our day to day life, luckily for us.
Can I say something? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I I think the whole like craft part bit is not really about like the efficiency part, but more like they want to present the best version of whatever they can make. So
Right.
I think that's what I was trying to say.
Oh,
Because when you say efficiency, I'm very like, no, I don't think they're efficient.
I don't. It's true. You're right. You're right. I'm also thinking about bettering yourself, right? It's about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
constantly making anything, whether
Kaizen,
it's
yeah.
yourself, your presentation, or the process, making it better
Yeah.
than it already
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
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 Yeah, yeah. That's not
I
efficiency.
Not necessarily. Thank you for correcting
Sorry,
me.
sorry to interrupt you.
No, no, no,
Sorry.
no. No, no, that's perfectly fine. And I think we all had to answer the question of how did we find balance and is it worth it? And I think our unanimous answer was yes, because we
Yes.
I think the benefit also for us in this particular case is that we started off with a good financial background to begin with. I have met people in Japan who started off with not very comfortable financial backgrounds, and they had to make a tough call to say this was harder than I expected it to be, and I don't want to be a part of it. We're not talking about integration into society, but we're talking about actually surviving on a certain budget that they're not used to, because if
Mm.
they went back home, they take their monetary benefits which would be much higher. So they said they couldn't do it in Japan the way it was. So I think in that sense, the three of us at least, I think it was better for us. What we also I think I understood from our conversation is that for all of us, we are currently more content with ourselves, more happy with what we have, what we don't have, I guess, exception being a labubu. And for me, and I think that's also something that I see for all three of us that I've noticed, because I've know Pascal for a while and I know Robbie for a while. At the end of the day, if somebody has something we don't have, we're like totally happy for you. You do you,
Yeah.
right? There
Yeah.
is no need to, negatively acknowledge that. We do acknowledge it, but not in a negative
This is
sense
not a
to say,
competition. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
no, it's
not a
not.
competition.
Yeah.
and
This is
and
not a
and I think that is
competition.
the it's not a competition, and I think that's a takeaway that we've had because of our experience. And for me personally, that was not me 9 to 10 years ago. I think that's the person that I am today, and I guess that is something that's common for all three of us.
Uh,
Ah, well, this
and
was a
this
long episode and totally worth
conversation,
it.
this is a long episode, but the
Was it
conversation
long?
is definitely really a lot of learnings that hopefully whoever tunes into our episode here will be able to learn something. And I think it has also helped the three of us kind of like frame and remind ourselves that we're doing just fine, because it's not every day that it's easy, right? And we could remind ourselves that we turned out okay with this experience and we're still learning, we're still a work in progress.
I
So,
feel like that's one thing that I also wanted to mention, whether this is for anybody listening or whether it is for my future self listening to this. Sometimes in a particular situation it seems so overwhelming, and there's so many things happening at any given point of time, and we just like it can be very demotivating and we want to call it quits. So hey, future self, if you're listening to me right now, please remember that you're doing just fine. You're
Hey,
exactly
future
where you want to.
Anu.
You're
You're just fine.
you're exactly where you want it to be. This is a happy time. I guess make the best of it.
yeah. And With that, we want to thank Pascal. You are our first guest. Thank you for your time. I know we're
Thank
working
you.
through three time zones here, so thank you for making it work. And
No,
for
thank
our
you.
next, yeah. And for our next episode, we will be actually talking about the fear of missing out. Now that that me and Anu is out of Japan and we see sometimes the Instagram accounts of people who are still in Japan, what kind of emotions do we have there? So that's the fear of missing out and feeling disconnected to the other place that we've called home is going to be our next topic. So if you haven't done it yet, please spend some time listening to this beautiful episode that will be available in YouTube and Spotify as we grow our community and just trying to help everyone who's navigating their lives outside of their home country and has now moved to different parts of the world. With that, thank you very much and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.